All right, we're going to get started with the first presentation. That's me. Since I have my clock here that I got to start on time so I can end on time. First of all, let's give a round of applause to Marion for organizing in the Santaquin Library as well. It's been really cool as through this and then through our local authors Facebook pages, we've started to get to know more of you. So it's been a lot of fun getting to know more authors. My name is Marcus Williams. I wrote my first book in 2010. I was a federal agent, and I was away from home for a couple months on an assignment, and I had nothing to do at night. So I was sitting in a hotel, and I just started writing. And I threw it up on Amazon and did nothing with it. It just sat there. And I sold a couple copies here and there. But it wasn't until probably 3 years ago that I decided to make a go at it and make a business out of it. So I've decided to self-publish. And so today I'm going to talk about that journey a little bit. And every topic that I talk about, I could do an entire presentation on it. I've learned so much by trial and error and by just watching videos and reading. But I want to talk about a bit of an overview. And there are a lot of different choices. So I'm not saying self-publishing is the way to go or that traditional publishing is the way to go. So I'm assuming that this is a decision you've already made. And so what next? And we're going to go from that premise. All right. So sometimes you start feeling a little hesitant about your decision. I would. And I think when I do that, I think back to two authors that successfully self-published. Charles Dickens self-published A Christmas Carol. It's one of the best-selling books of all time. And Harriet Beecher Stowe self-published Peter Rabbit. No publisher wanted to touch it. So she decided that she loved it and she wanted to go for it. And so she self-published. And again, it's one of the most beloved childhood characters of all time. So never doubt yourself if this is your decision. People will say, no, you have to go through a big publisher in order to make it as an author. That's not true. So one of the biggest questions I see on self-publishing groups that I'm a part of are how much does it cost? And that's actually two different questions. It's how much does it cost to publish and how much does it cost to get ready to publish? And those are two very different things. They're actually, and you can manage that because again, you're self-publishing, so it's all up to you what you do. Your biggest cost in preparing to self-publish is editing. And I'm a really good editor. I can edit your book really well, but I can't edit my own stuff very well. And that's just the way it is. Your brain can't look at something that you've worked on and stared at for years and find mistakes because your brain knows what it's supposed to say, and that's what it sees when you read it. So even when I read it, I'll read it on a screen, and then I can read a print version, I'll read it out loud to myself, and every time I find new mistakes, but I can never find everything. So there are a lot of different levels of editing, and you have to decide what you want. From developmental, which happens after your first draft, all the way up to your final line and copy editing, we're looking for commas and semicolons and that. And you have to decide what you want and what you want to pay for. There are established industry costs, but it can widely vary based on who you choose. And it's usually per word, so it depends on how long your book is, how much it's going to cost. You can find editors on Fiverr and Upworks and a bunch of other sites, and there's probably editors here in the room today. I do developmental editing myself. And then I'm lucky because my son majored in editing, so I have an in-house editor. He edits my books, I edit his, and that helps with the cost. Cover design is another big one. Everybody judges books by their cover. No matter what we say, it's just true. And so it matters. It matters doing your research, making sure it looks like the genre it's supposed to be. I recently reviewed a book for an indie publisher that was a decent book. It was a good book, but the cover had nothing to do with the book. And so even though I gave the book a positive review, I had to talk about the fact that if you're looking at the cover, you would never buy the book. And in fact, you might put it down because you start reading and you said, this is not what I expected. Formatting and layout is another thing you can do yourself, but if you're not comfortable with that, you can hire someone to do. And then there's all the marketing, and that's up to you how much you do. Things like this, it can be ads. You can put as much or as little into marketing as you want, and marketing has its own returns. So those are a lot of the costs that come before publishing. The layout is, I just wanted to show you kind of the variation in costs in different programs. There are a ton of different software programs you can use, all the way from Google Docs and Microsoft Word up to Scrivener and Atticus. And you have to kind of decide which ones work for you. I've played around a little bit with them, and I found that this, I didn't make this graph, but it's actually pretty accurate based on ease of use. And I'll talk to you about which one I use. I've personally chosen later, but the kind of industry, if you're in the industry, you would use Adobe InDesign, but that's like extremely difficult. So it's not even on here. You would need to really be familiar with Adobe products, and there's a huge learning curve there. So these are accessible to everyone, but there's still different costs and different levels of ease of use. So a lot of decisions to make, and part of it is just watching YouTube videos, practicing, maybe getting a free trial and seeing how it works. One thing I would say is don't use Kindle Create. When it says low capability, that means it's extremely low. And if you publish your book using Kindle Create, everyone knows it. But first, you can open the book immediately and know that that's what they used, and therefore they didn't put much time into it. So publishing itself is free, and that's the misnomer. People will try to sell you on, I'll publish for you at this cost. It's free. You do not have to pay for it. Ingram Spark was the last holdout. They used to charge $50 to publish, and they finally decided to make it free in order to be competitive. So all three major services are free. And these are the big ones that I suggest. You can actually individually publish at each of one of these, but why would you do all that work? So Drafted Digital is one that I do first. I use Drafted Digital and Kindle and KDP. I do Drafted Digital first for a few reasons. One, because they will distribute to all of these storefronts your ebook, and they handle all the payment too. So if someone buys your ebook on Barnes & Noble, if you're published through Drafted Digital, then Drafted Digital handles the royalties and everything. So you're only worrying about getting one check from them. They also do paperback books that are print on demand. So they're not in any stores. So when it says it publishes to Barnes & Noble, your paperback will not automatically be in their brick and mortar store, but it will be on their website. And I like it because you don't have to pay any cost for printing, and it only is printed when someone buys it. So no one has to pay for inventory. And KDP, you can do ebooks, paperback, and hardback. And no matter if you like Amazon or not, there are haters and lovers of Amazon, but the truth is it's the largest bookseller in the entire world, and that's just it. If your book's not in Amazon, you're missing out on the vast majority of book readers in the world. And that allows you to publish in all of their stores around the world, not just in the United States. Ingram Spark is more of a traditional publishing, and so your book is published there, it's free, but that allows bookstores they basically get the catalog, they can find your book and they say, oh, this is interesting, I'm going to buy 10 copies from my bookstore. But with the traditional model, they buy it knowing that if they don't sell them, they can return them and that money comes back out of your bank account. So the author takes all the risk and the bookstores take none of the risk. So yes, it'll get your books into brick and mortar stores, but you can't spend the money you earn because it might be taken out 5 months later. So it's more of a long-term strategy. So if you're looking to cash those paychecks and use them right away, Ingram Spark is probably not the way to go. I do have some books in Ingram Spark only because they had a paperback format that no one else had for my kids' books that I have on my table. So a lot of options there, lots of decisions. One big decision with Kindle is, do you want to go exclusive to Amazon, which a lot of people do, or do you want to go wide? I personally like going wide because I like choices. I like people to be able to buy it from whatever store they want to buy it from, knowing that the majority are still going to be Amazon. So Amazon has a program called Kindle Unlimited, where instead of getting paid for every time they purchase a book, you get paid for every page they read. So you can make a lot of money through KU, but you have to sign a contract that you won't distribute your book anywhere else. So there's a balance. I have one book in KU just to kind of experiment with it. and I'll see how it goes. If it doesn't go well there, I'll distribute wide once my contract is over. It used to be a decision you want to go paperback or ebook or both. Now there's no reason not to just do both because it's so easy to do that there's no reason not to. Your ISBN is basically your book's identifier. It's a little number on the back of your book. Every book has one. If you are an author who just wants to publish one book, maybe two, Amazon and Draft2Digital will give you a free ISBN, and you don't have to pay for it or worry about it, and it's fine. But if you're trying to make it a business, I would suggest looking into purchasing your own ISBN numbers. The difference is you still own the rights to your book, but they own the rights to that number. So if someone searches that ISBN, it comes back to Amazon or it comes back to Draft2Digital. Whereas if you own it, it comes back to you when someone searches. So I started out getting free ISBNs because I didn't have the money to buy them. And now I purchase, you can buy them in bulk and get them cheaper. So I purchased 100 ISBNs. And now my more recent books will come back to my publishing company. There's only one authorized retailer of ISBNs. Lots of places will tell you they're selling them. Basically, they're reselling them, and it's Bowker in the US. So if someone is telling you they're giving you a good deal, they're just reselling them from Bowker, so you should go to the source to make sure you're not getting scammed. Another big decision is AI. It's a massive discussion right now on whether it's okay to use or not okay to use. There are people on both sides of the fence, and there are different arguments. Images is one argument. Is it okay to use illustrations from AI? Editing. Basically, you're using AI already when you're editing because you're using suggestions that pop up in Word, spell check and stuff. That's essentially AI. So editing is not as big a deal, although I would say don't rely on AI editing solely. Use it. It's great, and then get a human to look at it because it's still not good enough. And then writing. So Amazon, it's become such a big deal that people were pumping hundreds of AI books into the Amazon marketplace, dozens a day, to the point where Amazon was like, whoa, and because people want to know. So now you have to click, did you use AI? And then you have to describe what part of your book used AI to create, so that there's a disclosure, and that pops up on your books saying, this author used AI in the illustrations or in help writing. So it's a tool. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. There's a big argument on the ethics of it, but just be aware and look into it before you use it or rely on it. Make sure you're making that decision if it's going to be right for you. So I decided to turn this into a business. So I'm trying to make a go of it as a full-time author. And so I created an LLC. And so all my books are published under my publishing company and instead of under my author name. And I'm not a business guy. I'm not an attorney or an accountant, so I can't give you business advice. But there are protections that come with being under a business. There's legitimacy when it shows that your book is printed by a publishing company. So I decided to create an LLC in Utah. It's super cheap and super easy to do. Other states, it's not so much, but here it's really easy to do, so I did it. First thing people do when they hear about you is they look you up online. Do you have social media? Do you have a website? So you can pay a lot of money for a website, or you can get free websites. And that's up to you. And I'm going to show you some services that offer some free websites here in a second. Another question I see a lot is, do I need to file for a copyright for my book? Under U.S. copyright, again, I'm not an attorney, but under U.S. copyright laws, your book is copyrighted when you publish it. Which you have proof that you wrote it, it's yours, you're protected. You can get further protections by applying for a copyright if you want to. It does cost some money, so it's a choice that you can look into and make. An author newsletter is something that I push back against for a long time. I don't like reading newsletters. I just delete them myself. So I kept pushing back again. But every single reports, everything I saw shows that newsletters are popular. Readers like newsletters from authors. And so I finally gave in and created a newsletter. And it's slowly growing. And it's just It's funny because people never open their emails, but for some reason newsletters are a great way to sell books. I don't know how that works. I can't get my kids to open an email, but apparently they will if it's from an author. You live and die by reviews. All the algorithms are dependent on reviews, and there are a lot of rules about how to get reviews. You cannot pay for reviews. You cannot, there are people out there that say, for $80, I'll get you 1,000 reviews. You will get banned and cut off of Amazon if they find that out. There's also things that your reviewers they can't say, and Amazon's cracking down on this. They can't say, I received a free copy in exchange for a review, which is what people used to say. If you say that now, Amazon will not only not publish a review, they'll ban the reviewer from any future reviews. So that's just recent that they've started cracking down on that. And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you got the book for free. You can buy a book, you can check out a book from the library and do a review. So why do you have to say you got a free copy? So just, if you like a book that you read, it really, really helps the author to review it, because I can publish a book with a unique name, and you will not find it in a search. You can type that name into Amazon, you will not find it. It'll be on page 50 of the search results with completely unrelated stuff until it starts getting reviews, and then it'll climb up the search results. As part of your business, you have to look at your marketing, your social media. You spend 50% of your time writing and 50% of your time on TikTok. And I hate TikTok, but I'm on it because it's part of the business. And then I'll talk a little bit about how I find out the research keywords, but all that matters. Your blurb matters, your keywords that you use, the genre that you put it under, all of that matters in helping your book be seen and be found. And then you have to decide as a business, is it worth doing events like this? Local events and fairs where you're putting in 8 hours a day. Is that 8 hours worth how much you make and how many books you sell? And that's another decision that you have to make. So there's a lot that goes into it that I've found out as I've tried to make this a business, that it's not just about writing. The writing is the fun part. So I want to talk about some of the services I use, and this is based on trial and error, a lot of experience, but doesn't mean it's right for everybody. These are just the things that I found work for me. So again, I first published on Draft2Digital, and before I got some formatting software, they actually have formatting software built into their program. So, upload your manuscript, and then they have some kind of simple chapter headings and formatting that they automatically do for you, and then they allow you to download that file, and you can use that file elsewhere. So before I was able to purchase a program to do that, I just used Draft2Digital, and it works pretty well. So it's free, and it does the basic job. You don't have a ton of options. So if you upload it, they format it for you, you look at it and there's something wrong, you can't fix it in Draft2Digital, you have to go back to Word and fix it in Word and then re-upload it. So it's kind of a pain, but it was free. And when I was starting, free was good. I write in Google Docs. And the reason I do that is because when I send it to my editor, I can see his edits real time. And we can work together and collaborate. A lot of people don't like that, or you're afraid that it might get lost. You can download your file every time you finish. If you want to back it up, it's fine. I've never had an issue with Google Docs as long as my account is good. But backing up is never a bad thing. The little dog there is a program called Atticus, and that's a formatting program. I think it was $150 for a lifetime membership. So updates for life. And it's getting more and more features. They're constantly working on it. It's a very active software. And they allow you to do a ton of stuff, from text messaging bubbles in your book to chapter breaks and headers and images. So I found it to be really easy to work with. And they're super responsive because they're still growing. So they'll email you, support will work with you very quickly and right away. And I find it works really well for me. So I use Atticus for all of my formatting. And it also allows you to see your book on different devices. So you can see what it'll look like on an iPad or on a Kindle and a paperback. And you can make changes in your formatting so that it works on all of those. And then it allows you to download different file formats. You can download the EPUB, you can download the Kindle version of Mobi, you can download a PDF. So it's very comprehensive. I designed my own covers in Canva. There's a free version and a paid version. If you're going to use and they have their rules on there, but if you're going to use Canva images with the free version, you have to buy the images to have the licensing to use them. I have the pro version because I use it for a lot of different things, not just this business. And it's very easy to learn. The learning curve is fairly slim, but it takes a lot of work to get good at it and to really dive into everything it can do. But I recommend playing around with it. Even if you're just you want to play doing your family Christmas card and other graphics like that, start playing with it and you'll find that it's a very powerful program, and it's not that expensive for the pro version either for what it does. Calibre is just a program that will help you, say you have an EPUB file and you need to convert it to a Mobi for Amazon. It will do that for free. So I use that sometimes, not a lot. And then my newsletter, I use MailerLite. There's a ton of email programs. I use it because it integrates with StoryOrigin. And I'm going to talk more about StoryOrigin because it's one of my favorites. But that's what I use for my newsletter. And MailerLite, the free version of MailerLite also allows you to build a website for free. So if you purchase the domain, then you have to send direct that domain to the MailerLite website. You can't. The paid version, you can actually have your own domain. But for the free one, you just have to redirect it to there, and it's a perfectly decent website. And then Publisher Rocket is made by the same company that does Atticus, and it's an incredibly useful tool. So it allows you to go in and research keywords. So you're trying to publish your book, Amazon lets you put 6 different keywords in. It allows you to search them, and it will tell you how many times that keyword is searched a month, how many people search for that keyword a month, and basically rate whether this keyword is going to work or not, whether it's a good keyword to use or not. Is it going to lead to people finding your book or not? And all variations. So you can do that. It also allows you to view all of the covers of the best sellers in your genre. So you can look at the covers and see what they look like, what is selling in your genre. And it allows you to also research genres and subgenres to see what is most popular, how many books are in that genre, how many people are buying books in that genre. So your book might be a thriller, but there are a ton of subgenres in thrillers. If you just list it under thriller, you're going to be one of 5 million. If you list it under one of the subgenres, you might be one of 5,000. Much easier to climb the list if you have a smaller pool. And you can find all that out just using Publisher Rocket. And I can't remember how much it costs. It was a one-time cost, again, with lifetime updates. So that's been invaluable in trying to make sure the books get to the right people when they're searching on Amazon. And then audiobooks is something that you'll want to think about. And it is essentially the largest growing book market out there. Paperbacks and ebacks are either stagnant or growing slowly, whereas audiobooks are skyrocketing. So there are a lot of ways to get your book into an audiobook. AI is a big discussion in that right now as well, although they're not good. I use Awesound as a service for an audiobook because I can sell it myself, and they do all the tech side of it, and I don't have to pay Amazon or Audible or anyone a royalty. So I get everything but the transaction fee. And then Findaway Voices is a service. It just got bought out by Spotify, but they will distribute your audiobook basically out to all of the audiobook services, including the one used by the library. So I was able to publish one of the books through Findaway, and then I requested Payson Library to get the book, and they did. So it's now available through the library because of Findaway. Whereas in Audible, it's more difficult to do that. So I want to talk about StoryOrigin, because that's one of my new favorites. So sorry if that's a little small. They have a free plan. They have 3 tiers. Yeah. Okay, 5 minutes. So they basically do all of the things that you want done, from website to newsletter, but allow you to do swaps with other authors in their newsletter swaps, book swaps. They manage review copies to send out, and they also have a service where you can directly sell your ebook, again, where you get all the profit instead of Amazon or Barnes & Noble. So they have been fantastic. They're $100 a year, which is a great price when you look at other services that handle review copies and such. None of them do this much for this price. And I recently beta tested the ebook direct sales for ebooks, and I was emailing with the CEO personally. So he is invested in personally working on the program and personally answers questions, which I love. So that's definitely something to look at if you're looking at kind of creating a business, and they do a website is included in that. So the biggest thing, if you go on a Facebook group for writers or self-publishing, you have a million people that tell you exactly what you have to do. And half the time I agree with them, half the time I don't. There are a million different ways to do this. You have to do what works for you, just like writing a book. How I write is going to be completely different from the way that you write. And so you have to decide what works for you. So it's great to ask questions. I'm happy if you want to go into any more of these in more detail. I'll be at my table and be happy to talk to you about them. Try them out, see what works for you, and then go with what works for you. And if you are an author or you're just about to be published, we do have a Facebook group for what's called the Payson Utah Authors Alley. So you can request to join that, and we're trying to create a community of local authors. So a couple more minutes. Do you have any questions? Awesome. Okay. Again, I'll be over there, so happy to talk to you. And like I said at the beginning, my decision to self-publish doesn't mean it's right for you. It was right for me. We're going to have another presentation on someone who chose a small publishing company and why that worked for her. So that's fantastic. The big thing is you want to successfully give your book a chance to succeed. And that includes making sure you do take all of the steps so that people see it and people find it. And then once they do, that it's quality. And these are the things that I do and the things that I've learned. And it's been a long journey. I'm still learning. But hopefully that is helpful to someone. So thanks a lot.